All right, so I've actually been in Berlin now for 2 days, but I haven't really shot anything. And there's two reasons for that. One is because I'm lazy and I didn't realize that shooting video like this, actually, you do have to shoot a lot. A lot of it doesn't actually even get into the video. And I kind of just didn't want to do that. Maybe there's three reasons. The other reason is where I'm in Berlin. I'm in very central Berlin. I'm actually in East Berlin, which I'll get to later. But it's very populated, so I kind of feel weird walking around with my phone out. I already look like enough like a tourist, so it kind of feels weird. Then the last reason is because when you go out in the culture of Germany, but specifically Berlin, we're about to have a Ferrari pass us here. You don't really see phones. Here, one second, let me just show you this. Yeah, it's a Ferrari. You don't really, people don't use their phones. You know, most clubs cover up your phones and stuff like that. I tried last night to get into a few clubs as a solo American. Didn't go well. Did a lot of waiting and then a lot of have a good night. Sorry, not tonight. Which is fine. They don't mean it in a bad way. They kind of they pick and choose. Obviously, like, I'm a solo and clearly I'm American. So, you know, and this weekend there's actually a festival going on in Berlin for like German culture and everything. So there's a lot of people here. So they're probably not really looking for tourists to go into the clubs, which is very fair. However, the reason I'm talking to you now and the reason you just saw Ferrari pass by is I'm going to do something really cool. Oh, before I tell you what I'm doing, also, my first day here, I was at Checkpoint Charlie, which, if you're a history person, you know Checkpoint Charlie. I'm going to talk about all that stuff later and the reason that I specifically picked the hostel in East Berlin, and I went and saw the Berlin Wall. That's also a place where I feel like I don't really want to take my phone out and video, because there's like, where I was looking in museums of people who tried to flee East Berlin, go to West Berlin, and there was a lot of people who were killed, and it was a much different time. It was much more of like an emotional thing, so it was like I didn't really want to be like, hey, look at me. So decided not to take the phone out then either. All right, now all that. Now, why am I talking to you now in a random car park where you just saw a Ferrari drive by? If you know me, I'm a massive car guy. I'm a massive F1 fan, and I love racing. And specifically, I've always wanted to try sim racing. I've tried it a few times, but here in Berlin, they have something really cool in this warehouse right behind me. They have a true sim racing setup, like where I paid like 60 euros for an hour. It's got pistons, it moves around. It's like as simulated as you can get, besides being like in an F1 facility. I'm really excited for it. This is what we're about to do. And I'm out here in West Berlin, and there's a lot of really cool cars around. So if I see any others that are driving by like that, then you're about to see them too. So essentially, I'm going to be driving this thing, and I'm starting a Mercedes GT on the Red Bull track. It's a track that I know and a car that I know. But you walk in here, there's pistons here, and you pretty much just move around like that. I'm definitely going to eat shit and crash like 40,000 times, but it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, well, that went from being there for just a little bit to actually ending up being there for quite a long time. My buddy Nick, he's the guy who's managing the shop. I was there for 60 minutes, he and I were talking, and then we just drove for like another hour, and he was teaching me and like driving with me, and it was really fun. But now I need to get the fuck back because I need to eat some food, and I want to get to a club. I don't want to get to a club not too late, so I have a good chance of maybe getting in. But now I need to figure out how the fuck I'm getting back. But it was really fun. I was driving GT cars, did a Mercedes at first, and a Porsche, and then a McLaren, all on the Red Bull track. It was a track that I know. And the difference in the cars is so much. And then he was teaching me like the difference of like where you want to be on the line and such precision. And the next thing I knew, I was just dropping second after second after second. I did really good, and I actually never hit a wall. I went off the track a couple times, so I did pretty good. But now I'm gonna put this down so I can navigate and find out where the fuck I'm going. So if I look like exhausted right now and you can see bags on my eyes, it's because I am, and it's because I've been in Berlin and enjoying the Berlin nightlife, which doesn't end until very, 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 very early in the morning. But that being said, I want to do a little bit of a video for Berlin. I haven't done that well shooting in Berlin for mainly a few reasons. One is I've been going out late, so I haven't really been doing like as much walking around as I was in Amsterdam. I've been doing a fair amount, but I've also been traveling via scooter. And scooter you can't film, and I just haven't really been as motivated. But I do want to do a little something. So I figured I'd talk about the history component, and which is one of the main reasons of why I picked my hostel, which is here in East Berlin. So World War II happened, and Berlin played a very key part. Now, what it did was in 1993 is when, for the first time, Berlin let the Nazi Party have seats in their version of parliament and government. Now, the reason because of this was because their politicians before that had just been caught in a massive corruption scandal. The economy was horrible, employment was extremely high, and the people were extremely upset with what was going on. So that's when the Nazi Party finally gained traction here in Berlin, which was key because Berlin was one of the last few places to have the Nazi Party established there. Now, in 1934, the president of Germany passed away, and that is when Hitler denounced himself as the Führer, and the Nazi Party became the dictatorship that we all know in history today. Now, why is this important? Berlin accelerated 11 years. Berlin was the last city to fall of the Nazis. It's actually here in this city where Hitler's bunker was when the Red Army, which was the Soviet Union, came alongside with the Western allies, like myself, the Americans, and collapsed and took over. Hitler shot himself famously in his bunker, and actually today the bunker is just a parking lot in the middle of absolutely nowhere. There's no markers, there's no nothing. But what is really important is after the war happened, the Berlin Wall was established. Not immediately after, but Berlin was split in half. You had the West, who were won by the Americans and by the Allies, and then you had East. Now, East Berlin is where I'm standing right now, and East Berlin was run by the Soviet Union. Now, the Soviet Union established the GDR, which is the German Democratic Republic, and was founded in 1947, and it lasted all the way till 1990. Now, what's really important about this is that the Soviet Union, notoriously, isn't really a democratic. It's not a democratic society, and there were so many people from the East who were trying to escape and flee to the West because the West just had more civil rights and was a better place to live. So the wall was constructed. Now, first they were saying that the wall wasn't going to be constructed, and then it was brought up. The wall was significant for many reasons because it split literally right in half through Berlin, and you can see it in the architecture, which is one of the reasons that I picked an Eastern Berlin hostel. You can see behind me just more of a brutalist look here. Obviously some of it has been changed, but there's much more of a brutalist architecture setting. And a lot of the clubs, for instance, that I've been going to are in West Berlin, The reason for that is because East Berlin wasn't allowed to have that type of free culture, and this is one of the reasons Berlin is notorious for its electric music scene, its art scene, its culture scene is a lot more free because of the Berlin Wall and because of the West being what it was and the East being what it was. That culture bled into the modern day that we know now, and it's a much more progressive or like woke place, if you will, compared to most of everywhere else in Germany. Now, I went to the Berlin Wall, and I went to Checkpoint Charlie, which was famous for where you could pass in between, and it's shockingly emotional. I'm about to now go to a Jewish memorial, which I'm also not going to film. Which that's also one of the reasons I haven't been filming, is because a lot of this World War II stuff just isn't the place to film. Also, Germans don't really like being on camera as much. But there's one thing. What's really interesting is last time my grandparents were here on my mom's side, they went through Checkpoint Charlie, where you still had mirrors to check under, because it fell. The wall fell in 1990. My mom was here visiting in the 1990s. She was here, and we actually have a chunk of the Berlin Wall home in the States, and it's just shocking to see that just a few years later, it's only been 35 years, what has happened, and there were countless deaths of people trying to get across. And there's a really cool art piece called literally The Wall. It's a temporary exhibit. Look it up online. If you can come to Berlin, I would strongly recommend it, but it is a 1-to-1 360 art piece, exactly what the wall was like in that section where you're standing in this dome. And you walk in there, and it is shocking. And I talked to my mom, and she was like, yeah, that's what it was like. It was just so odd that there was a whole nother universe on the other side. And it's something really interesting. And one of the reasons that I like Berlin so much is because of that history and the grandness to it. I mean, there's the Soviet Union building architecture here, and then you go into the Western Front, and it's colorful, it's completely different. And I find it fascinating and a cool part of history that's stayed here. Behind me here is the Fraserplatz. I'm definitely butchering that. But not only is it just a very important monument in itself and it's restored, that's probably much more historical meaning than I do know. This area along with this road right here, you can maybe see all the way back there. I can't zoom in because it's southern road. It's notorious for where Hitler would have, show arms of strength and have tanks run down and people march and these types of things. The cool is over here is where a lot of the embassies are. You'll see over here that's the Scottish flag, and then down there was Italy. You got France. A lot of the embassies are down there. Not the United States though. And yeah, it's just a really cool area. This reminds me a lot of Washington D.C., except this one's much longer and there's a road. So behind me is 2,511 concrete slabs, and this memorial was opened to the public in 2005, and it's meant to really represent the 6 million Jews that were murdered during the Holocaust. And beneath it is a museum that I'm going to pop into because it's starting to really pour rain. And also apparently they have signs saying you can film, so I'm filming. But what it really does is, it's starting to pour, so I gotta talk quick here. What it really does is, as you go into the center of it, it really disorients you, and it's up and down, and it's not level, and there's different heights and stuff. They're all the same width and height. I mean, all the same width and length, but different heights, and it really just disorients you. And even though you're in the middle of the city, you're kind of all alone and walking into each other. And the whole purpose of it is to just show how all of a sudden, bang, for the Jewish people in Germany, everything was just stripped away from them. And they were kind of in this darkness all of a sudden. And it does a really good job representing that. Now, I'd love to talk more about it, but I'm getting poured on, so I need to run. So it looks like I'm actually a little too late, and the museum's closed. So I'm just gonna head back to the hostel and really just get myself ready for leaving tomorrow. But one more thing that I did want to point out that I noticed when I was walking over here, I'm not sure if I can film it very much, but right there, directly across from the memorial, is the American Embassy. What I find really interesting is there's an American police officer standing out there. At least he looks American. He's wearing the American hat. He looks like an NYPD officer. So I'm gonna ask if he's American. I might get yelled at, but if he's a citizen, but he looks American. I just find that really funny. He's actually a really nice guy. He is indeed an American citizen. He had an American accent. And he said, yeah, I work for the State Department. So I'm not sure if all the embassies are like that, but mine is. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, you can see the American flag right there. Pretty cool. I've actually never seen my embassy before in another country. All the places I've been, I've never ran into it. I didn't even know it was here, but there we go. The more you know. So sadly, I wanted to shoot more B-roll and just B-roll, I don't know what it's called. To kind of just show you guys more of that landscape here. But it is starting to rain, and the rain's only gonna get worse. And I'm wearing something heavy. Naturally, I don't have a raincoat, and I forgot my umbrella, because that's what smart people do. So now I'm just gonna head back to the hostel and probably put this video together, everything you've just seen. And yeah, Berlin is a beautiful city in its ruggedness. It's not as beautiful like Florence, which is the next stop. I wish I could film more, but I do fly out tomorrow. So sadly, that's gonna be the end of the chapter, but yeah, I would definitely recommend it though.